Welcome to Grapes and Debates, a podcast where we'll uncork some incredible wine and debate varietals of issues within the restaurant industry, one glass at a time. And now, your hosts and owners of So Napa Grill.
Episode 107, Grapes and Debates.
Yes, sir.
Adam Barringer, founder of So Napa Grill, and I'm missing my two business partners, Joe Bates. He is actually working at our Jacksonville store, and Chris Botting will be joining us later today. Cool. We have Jade Sullivan.
Hey.
Knows just about nothing about wine.
That's right.
Just that you like it.
Proudly.
And you're getting ready to drink a really, really good Chardonnay.
Yes.
And an even better Cab.
Yes, I'm very excited. I'm very, very excited.
And we have Michael Cooperman. Michael, welcome all the way from Napa Valley.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Happened to be coming out to California, and Adam, we met at the Healdsburg Food and Wine Festival in May of last year in Healdsburg in Sonoma County, and exchanged information, and lo and behold, that's how things work, Here
we are.
Here we are, totally.
Awesome. Well, it was kind of interesting because we just went to lunch, and you mentioned that you're really excited about the Chardonnays that are being made in California, which leads us right into the wines that you represent. And why don't you just kind of tell everybody about the wines that you represent?
Okay.
To start with.
Sounds good. So I've lived in Napa Valley for almost 15 years, been in the wine business for over 25. And for the last 2 years, have had the good fortune to work for the Taub family, T-A-U-B. And this is a fourth generation family in the wine business.
Wow. Starting
as really importers in the 70s, but even before that, rectifying brandy right after Prohibition for the Gallo family. And so today, the third and fourth generation Taubs, Mark and Jake, run Palm Bay International, which is one of the largest wine importers in the country. As importers, obviously, it's international wines, right? But we're tasting California today, and that's because Mark decided to make some of his own California wines starting in 2013. So that is how Taub Family Vineyards came to be. And since then, just a few years ago, his son, Mark's son Jake, decided to get into the producing wine side of the business as well. And that's the Sign of the Dove Cabernets. So, Sign of the Dove came out of the gate just as a direct-to-consumer wine, although we will be having a little distribution for Sign of the Dove coming up later this year. But the Taub wines have been distributed from the very beginning.
Wow.
Palm Bay is an importer, and they have a whole network of distributors around the country, so it was sort of this plug-and-play type of scenario to be doing those Cabernets. But then they wanted to find somebody that could do their DTC wines, especially with Sign of the Dove starting. So that's where I came in. And I was introduced to Jake Taub by Mayan Kushitsky, who's an amazing Napa winemaker, has been working with Philippe Melka for the last 10 years, does some of his own wines, and is now consulting with us on our Taub Cabernets. We are just going to be releasing those wines, that 23 vintage, which was his first, a little bit later this year. So we don't have them, but the label is very much like the Taub Chardonnay label right there. So yeah, I've been with the Taub family now for 2 years. March 25th was 2 years. And so, I was very excited about the Sign of the Dove part, and I kind of came on board because of that. But then Jake told me that we were working with David Ramey on some Chardonnays for Taub. I'm like, okay, well, if ever I was in doubt about whether I should take this position, that solidified. It really did. And you were mentioning about me, and Chardonnay a minute ago. California Chardonnay has become for me one of the most exciting wine categories. It's been around for a long time. And for a long time, I actually wasn't really into California Chardonnay because I just found it was sort of a caricature of a style. Big, oaky, buttery, all those things. And then, about 10 years ago, I had my eyes opened in a really significant way. And since then, because I live in Napa Valley, I live in California, I've just been able to discover and be curious and try a lot of different things. And, it's kind of one of my favorite wines these days, which, my New York Somm buddies back in the day, Heard Michael Cooperman is slinging Napa Cab and loves Napa and loves California Chardonnay. They're like, are we sure we got the right guy?
Yeah.
That's how they would react to this. But tastes change, and I think winemaking changes too. Even Napa Cabernet today is very different than it was even 10 years ago, especially 15, 20 years ago.
Well, as Grapes and Debates, we always start with grapes. So tell us a little bit more about the Chardonnay and let us kind of sample this as we go.
So this is our Martinelli Vineyard Laughlin Road Chardonnay out of the Russian River Valley. This is the first vintage of this wine. We made a sister wine from another Martinelli vineyard in the Fort Ross Seaview area for this vintage as well, but we're just tasting the Russian River today. So this is a vineyard that was planted in 1982. So the vines for this are 40 years old. We only made 4 barrels. It is fully 5 barrels. It's fully barrel fermented, 20% new, and full malolactic in barrel.
Full mallow in barrel? Mm-hmm. Because I'm getting that creaminess. Mm-hmm. The beautiful thing about this wine, it is so balanced, but it's still, I get a really nice acidity, but then I get the creaminess as well. And I'm not getting heavy oak. Mm-mm. This is drinking beautifully. Yeah,
you mentioned the acidity, Adam. This wine, we were, very precise at the time that we picked it. It's like, okay, here we want to be. 22 was not a super warm year in that area of the Russian River as well. So there's just a ton of acid to begin with. So even though it went through a full malolactic, and even though there are some of those lactic notes, right, a little creamy, I almost think of it more as like a creme fraiche, right? Like it's got a tanginess to that, but I find the balance of this, to be just very refreshing, but very long and layered as well. We stirred the lees weekly for the first 6 months, all the way through mallow, which was done a native malolactic that's in the cellars where we make the wine. And, after that point, we just left the wine in contact with those lees for another 12 months. So, this is 18 months in oak. It's 20% barrel fermented, full mallow, 20% new oak. But
now,
to me...
what's that called? Is that process, is that called autolysis?
A little bit of autolysis happens, kind of once you hit about that, say, 15-month mark, where the yeast cells start to break down a little bit and can create some of those like brioche bread dough sort of notes. You find that certainly most often in champagne, because for vintage champagne, 15 months is the minimum amount of time that it can be on the lees. So you start to get a little bit of that. But I've found that, this longer period of time in barrel for California Chardonnay from great sites is this, a key piece in bringing all the elements together in balance, right? Like, I think if we had gone more new oak for less amount of time, the oak would sort of sit on top, right? Whereas here, I think it just took all that time. Oh, here's the fruit, and here's the acid, and here's the, the yeastiness and the oak to finally like reach that point where you're like, okay, this is where we want to capture that. This is where we bottle, unfined and unfiltered. So this is, it's as classic Burgundian Chardonnay winemaking as you get, as classic David Ramey winemaking as you get, and I just think it's a stunning wine.
It is, and I would say if Joe was here, he would say the oak is not even riding shotgun. It's not even in the second row. The oak is in the third row. Hey, you're back there.
Yeah.
Now, that's how Joe would explain it.
Yeah.
What did you think?
I never really liked Chardonnays. It wasn't my favorite. It would never be my go-to because of that buttery and very wood-like flavor to it. So this is fantastic. It's very smooth, has that crispiness too, but you can still tell it's a Chardonnay. So, it's I would definitely buy a bottle of this wine for sure. Yeah.
Would you put ice cubes in it?
Probably.
maybe just to start, and then you'll see.
We'll ease it.
That's good because you are learning what you like. You know what you like. You don't like that oaky, really heavy oak, and I'm telling you that it's beautiful. It's going to be This is going to make for a really amazing pairing today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
This is phenomenal.
and it's a wine that can really stand the test of time. I mean, well-made Chardonnay. You look at the Burgundy region of France, white Burgundy as we call it. That's the Chardonnay grape all over, right? Those wines can last for a long time in the cellar.
Yeah.
So this wine could certainly do that too.
And it has a nice fragrance to it too.
What's the fragrance?
It's refreshing. Feels like I could drink this on a beach. I could also drink this
By the pool?
by the pool. I could drink this while I'm cooking dinner. It's just makes you feel like
You can make a rhyme about this.
we're gonna write this down. Write it down. Oh, it's recording.
By the beach, by the pool.
Really anywhere.
Yeah, there's a lot of freshness to it, right?
Yes.
And so, and the acidity really helps keep it lively, and so it can be one of those wines that you enjoy, in a warm
Yeah.
setting, right? But you let this wine, start to warm up a little towards room temperature, and then it really starts to strut its stuff. We're just getting this little peak of it right now, and wonderfully versatile with a lot of different food as well. All different manner of fish and chicken, and like pork tenderloin with kind of more modest seasonings to it. It's super versatile.
When we saw you at the Hillsborough Wine and Food Festival, we started out the day drinking Sauv Blancs. We were staying in Chalk Hill. So we started out the day drinking Sauv Blancs. Go over into the valley. I think our first tasting was, and I could be wrong about this, but I think our first tasting then was at Ghost Block. And then our next tasting was at Paradigm. And then we left there to go to the Hillsborough Wine and Food Festival. And I have to tell you, I don't remember this drinking as beautifully as it is now.
Fair enough. Well, here we are, at home, first wine of the day.
Right.
I mean, I'm assuming,
Yes.
we hung out for a little while,
Right.
so, I don't know how you roll in the mornings. But, definitely a different ball game, when you're first trying it.
No, it is. It's, I got to tell you, I'm impressed.
No,
It's
thank
really
you.
that good.
Yeah, I was, once I heard that we were making these wines, I was super, super excited. I was like, okay, sign me up. And then when I tasted them, I'm like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
They're what I thought they would be.
And for people that are listening, how important is the name Dave Ramey to be involved with making a Chardonnay, and how important is it to say the Martinelli family is where we're getting the fruit, and how important is it to say then it's Russian River?
Right. Well, 3 excellent kind of markers of like fantastic potential quality, right? I'll start with the Russian River. I mean, most areas of the Russian River are tailor-made for Chardonnay and Pinot Noir because they're cooler, especially as you get to those portions that are closer to the Pacific Ocean. So, I mean, for Sonoma County, Russian River Chardonnay is sort of, I think, the one AVA that started it all, right? Sonoma-Cutrer, the Russian River ranches back in the day. So, of course, there's that. The Martinelli family is really synonymous with grape farming in Sonoma County. So they've been farming grapes, their own grapes, for the last 60 years. And they've been farming full stop in Sonoma County for 130 years. We've all probably enjoyed Martinelli sparkling cider at one point, when we were kids. And, today, if you have kids, they probably have tried that. That is that same Martinelli family. So they're, super dedicated to their craft, have amazing vineyard sites throughout Sonoma County. And it was our ability to start working with David Ramey that allowed us to access the Martinelli vineyard sites. So there's the Laughlin Road Vineyard, which is this wine from Russian River, and then the Charles Ranch out in Fort Ross Seaview, just, a couple ridge lines in from the Pacific Ocean, 1,100 feet above sea level. That wine actually is planted in the same year, 1982. So when we get to taste these wines side by side tonight, it's going to be a real kind of like exercise in terroir of the two sites, because both wines were made the same. The whole thing, same oak, same new percentages, all of that stuff. So that
Just
leads us
real quick,
Yeah.
because you just used a big term there that I think is going to catch our 29-year-olds a little off guard.
Yes.
Terroir.
I was going to say, I was like, interesting. What is that?
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, the concept, but wines are from places.
Right.
They're from places on the earth.
Yes.
And, the great wines of the world are made in very specific places, right? And even within some of those specific places, like some little vineyards and areas are just different than the one that could be right next to it. And so the French word terroir, as they would say it, Terroir, is this concept that, the place where the wine is grown, and really any agricultural product is grown, has a stamp of character because it's grown there.
Oh.
And the soil has to do with it, the climate, the weather in a particular year. That's just sort of like one year or another. It's really sort of what is the climate about? And then, other aspects of the vineyard. What is the slope of the vineyard? What type of soil is it? Is it facing the sun in a certain way or not?
Right.
It depends on, sometimes you want a lot of sun exposure and sometimes you don't, depending on where you are. So it's this idea that a vineyard has a voice because of where it's from. And then it's up to, to human beings to kind of steward that to, into reality, right?
Wow.
So there's always a stamp of winemaking on our wines. I mean, wine is just that. It's a human endeavor. It's a process of manipulation, not in a bad way, right? But you got to go get the grapes, and then you got to go do these things in order to get to this, right?
Right.
So the idea of tasting these Chardonnays later and understanding that the differences between them will be the terroir, the winemaking is the same. Even the age of the vines is the same. The harvest dates were different because the grapes ripened at a little bit different times. But
it'll be interesting. That'll be a fun. That's going to be a fun tasting.
Yeah. Well, and the same can be said in a sense for the sign of the Dove Cabernets. They're both made by the same winemaker, both made with very similar winemaking protocols and steps that were taken. So, to a certain extent, that's sort of a terroir tasting exercise.
Okay, cool.
Now
That's
tell us.
very
But David Ramey. So let me. That was the last piece.
Okay,
Is that
perfect.
okay? Do we have we have as much time as we want?
We have all the time.
Okay. All right. 108 isn't happening like in 5 minutes. Okay. So David Ramey is, I would have to say, the most important name in California Chardonnay ever. So much so that the Wine Spectator called him Professor Chardonnay. He's done more studies about growing Chardonnay and fermentations and oak aging and all of those sorts of things than anybody ever has. And so Ramey Wine Cellars is just legendary for their Chardonnays, all throughout Sonoma County. He also makes some Cabernet Sauvignon. He used to make a Claret and a Cabernet Sauvignon from Napa Valley. But he is just a legend in the business. And we were very lucky to kind of wrangle him to do a little consulting for us for that project. So the Taub family really is approaching its California projects in wine. Let's source from the best vineyards that we can possibly get our hands on, and let's have some of the best craftspeople in the business bring them into reality, right? So that's what we're doing with the Chardonnays, with David Ramey and these Martinelli vineyard sites. That's what we're doing with Mayan Koshitsky, starting with the 23 vintage with the Taub Cabernets, and what we're doing with Jesse Katz with the Sign of the Dove.
Wow.
All right. So
amazing.
Sign of the Dove.
Yeah.
Would you consider this, is this considered a cult wine?
I think it just depends on what your definition of cult is, right? And so it's a funny conversation as far as cult wines are concerned, but I think it's a new day cult wine of sorts. The Robb Report in July of 2024 called it Napa Valley's next great cult wine, which was a pretty bold sort of thing to say.
I mean, going up against some big names.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, and big and new names that are coming out. It's like, but what they identified as like what would really define the next generation of cult wines is vineyard sourcing and talent, right? The OG set of cult wines, you have Harlan and Screaming Eagle, Dalla Valle, Grace Family, Bryant, Colgan. These were all estate wines that had their own. They have their own vineyards. They have their own winery, their own winemakers, and so that's like what the original idea of a cult wine was. But over the years, others have sort of joined into that, echelon of wines, I suppose. Usually dictated by fantastic press and scores, and then a price point that can be sold year after year. At a certain point, once you start getting above, 400, 500 a bottle, like the wines are kind of thought of in a culty sort of way.
Right. You're right on the cusp.
You're right. I think we are. We're at 300 a bottle is where we started with these wines, and 21 was our first vintage. We're tasting the Sign of the Dove Missouri Hopper, Beckstoffer Missouri Hopper Vineyard 2022 here. So this is our second vintage out of the gate of this wine. And we'll make the same 2 wines for Sign of the Doves through the 23 vintage. So Beckstoffer Vineyard George III out of Rutherford, and Beckstoffer Missouri Hopper Vineyard out of Oakville.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not sure what I'm picking up on the nose. It is
Kind of plummy.
I was almost thinking of some kind of, almost like a eucalyptus or something.
Interesting.
Maybe it's just my breath breathing into the glass.
Just coming back.
No,
There's definitely like a little herbal, savory kind of quality to it.
And is this 100% cab?
100% Cabernet.
Yeah.
And it's,
It's
I think
red.
some of that, Adam, is that it's this particular block that we have access to at Missouri Hopper is planted with a very old clone of Cabernet called Clone 4. And so Clone 4 is, there's a sort of saying in the Napa business, it's like Clone 4 tastes like Cabernet. And what does that mean? Cabernet is the child of Cabernet Franc and Sauvignon Blanc.
Right.
Both are wines that have a little bit of that herbalness to them. Sauvignon Blanc for sure, but Cabernet Franc can as well. And so because Clone 4 was one of those early successful clones of Cabernet, you will get some more of that versus some of the newer clones like 337 or, some of these other ones that, are very much more fruit-driven forward. I think you get definitely some of the Clone 4 Cabernet in here, but in a really pretty way, like that kind of savory, herbal sort of quality.
And again, going back to when I tried these wines, I do not remember this being as good as it was. I mean, we got to the Healdsburg Wine and Food Festival at 3 o'clock. I think it closed down at 4. And I think we did. We went up one road down the other, and that's when we found you. And yeah.
Well, and I'm trying to remember. I don't know if we were pouring both of them or just one. It would have been the 21 vintage that you tried versus the 22 that's here. I think this is drinking really beautifully, and you've got it at such a good temperature. Right. Like this is perfect temperature. Yeah.
What do you think?
It's smooth. It's real smooth. Everybody listening, it's very, very it's refreshing. Like I said on the other one, doesn't leave the back of your tongue dry. It's very
it's well balanced.
It's very well balanced. And I said plummy earlier, but I feel like I don't know why I say plum, but there's some fruit in there.
I absolutely get plum, dark plum.
Dark plum.
Yeah.
Not overripe, but just fresh black plum.
Yeah.
Definitely some cherry in there.
Yeah.
But there's still brightness here, right? It's not like a heavy dried fruit, baked fruit type of Napa Cabernet, which there are plenty out there. There's a freshness and lift. There's still plenty of acid here, but to your point, it's so balanced. I think all of those elements of the fruit and the acid, there's a lot of tannin here as well, but it's not grippy, right? It doesn't create that drying sensation, which is, I think, what you were describing.
Sure.
When the tannins, attach to your salivary proteins, and then it makes your mouth just very dry and abrasive. That's the chemistry behind it. But so much of that is due to Jesse Katz's winemaking and the different things that he does along the way to create such beautiful purity of fruit. Maintain freshness, gets all this beautiful color and these short chain tannins that make this wine very elegant, although it can age for a long, long time.
I would say elegant, sexy. What I like is in a typical cab from Napa, I like some of that leather elements and that deep, rich fruit. I think I'm getting the deep, rich fruit in such a beautiful way, and not necessarily that leather or mocha to go with it. It is just like a refreshing and just, this is awesome. I mean, this is really good.
I would say thank you, but I didn't have anything to do with making it awesome. But it's been really great to be able to share these wines with people, to turn people onto the wines and taste with them. I'm the director of private clients for all of the Taub's California wines from like direct to consumer side of things, and so I get to share these at places like Healdsburg Food and Wine or Destin Wine Auction. I do both of them. We're going to be coming back, and I'm kind of back sort of in the area. In late April for the auction, but then in the fall they do this like harvest festival out there, and so a lot of people have got to enjoy them over there, but really all over the country. So and to sort of lead us into that cult category, because there has to be an otherness to it as well. Yes, Jesse Katz is the talent behind sourcing from great fruit, but with that 21 vintage, we ended up getting 100-point scores for both wines, which is exceedingly rare for a first release of a winery to get 100.
Right.
And not only that, it wasn't just one of the wines, both of them did. So
both of the Sign of the Dove received 100 points.
The 21 vintage, the Missouri Hopper and the George III. So that's a pretty special thing.
Okay.
And I think it kind of cemented, is this really indeed like this next cult wine of Napa Valley?
To get a score like that, absolutely. What's the winemaker's background?
Jesse Katz. Jesse has his own winery in Healdsburg called Aperture Cellars. And mostly, Sonoma winemakers are, focus on a lot of Pinot and Chardonnay. Everything grows in Sonoma, though. He focuses on Bordeaux varieties. So he's like Cabernet, Malbec. He has another label called Devil Proof. And so he's made an incredible name for himself with his own wines, and then chosen to work with a few different kind of partners in the business, but in a very limited kind of amount of clients. So I think we were very lucky to start working with him. But he's had many 100-point scores. He was on Forbes's 30 under 30 list, the first person in the wine business ever to be on that list. He had a bottle of wine sell at auction for $1 million. That was a first. Wow. And just this year, for last year, he was a Wine Enthusiast's Winemaker of the Year. Jeez. So it doesn't, Jesse Katz is incredibly talented. He's about as hot as it gets as far as a winemaker is concerned. He's been tasting wine for a long time. His father's a photographer, famous photographer, Andy Katz. And so Andy used to travel for work and take the family with, and so Jesse got exposed to European wines at an early age. He spent a little time working at Chateau Petrus, a little time working at Screaming Eagle, working with Paul Hobbs down in Mendoza at Vina Cobos. So he definitely got the experience and then said, okay, this is the winery that I want to build. So
amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I gotta say, it must have been a long day of drinking wine, because these wines both of them are phenomenal. And for me, Chardonnay is, I would go Sauv Blanc before Chardonnay, but that Chardonnay is beautiful. It really is.
Definitely.
And then to follow it up with that cab.
Ooh. Wow.
Yeah, I feel pretty, excuse me, allergies, and it gets to me sometimes.
The pollen's so bad down here.
I feel very lucky to get to work with both of these wines, and then to have some others as well with our Mendocino winery, Saracena, the new Taub Cabernets that are coming out. So I'm feel very lucky.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the
This is gonna be great
Taub.
tonight.
Yeah, cabs for sure. And I'm looking forward to our tasting tonight. We're gonna pair this with filet tenderloin, and I'm still on the fence of what we're gonna pair the Chardonnay with, because we can go two ways, and I might be doing 2 pairings now that I know there's 2 wines.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Might do fresh clams and linguine.
Big advocate for that one.
Okay.
I love clam
And then
linguine.
the other one would be a jumbo lump crab with a little bit of creme fraiche, shaved fennel.
Oh.
I think that'll bring out the really beautiful hints of this acidic Chardonnay.
Yeah, definitely. It's a nice bright example. I think that would be a really good dish with it.
Awesome. Michael, it was great to have you here. It's great to
Thank you.
hear about the wines, and I look forward to our tasting tonight and look forward to doing what we can to help sell some wine for you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, and I, hadn't expected until this morning that we were going to be doing this. So I'm stoked. I love it.
That's awesome.
I talk for a living, so this worked out just fine.
Perfect. Now, if somebody wanted to find the wines, where would they find these?
So the top Chardonnays can be found on our website, taubfamilyvineyards.com. And for Sign of the Dove, all you have to do is sign up for our mailing list. Mm-hmm. Anybody that signs up, I reach out to, and happy to make an offer on the wines. But we typically just release our Sign of the Dove wines during our allocation release period in the fall. So that'll open up this year for the 2023 vintage in August. But I still have some of the 22s, so
perfect.
Somebody signs up, I'm happy to help them acquire the wine.
Awesome.
But we work on an allocation type of model versus a club, right? So for 2 weeks, our entire mailing list is has the chance to acquire the wines, and then we close it off. We save some back for library. We're basically sold out of the 21s, except for some special customers, all that kind of stuff. But the 22s are beautiful, and that's our current vintage.
Wow. Again, thank you so much. We look forward to having a great night. And as we end our podcast, Barbara Smith, taste, toast together.
Woo!
Ooh.
Boom. And
Exceptional.
oh.
What
cut you off.
were you doing?
And cut.
Oh.
We have fun here.